Okay, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. This is the February edition of the High School Assessment Coordinators meeting. We've got a lot of ground to cover. There's way too much going on, and I understand that, but I want to make sure that you have the tools at least to occasionally come up for air. So the agenda has us going through the pre-ACT Secure. We're going to talk about the alternate access field test information that's out right now. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about forward, but the majority of our time is going to be on the ACT. Questions are always welcome, and hopefully that together everyone in this group is able to come up with a solution, or we'll find out, get back to you. So things are moving quickly. We are less than a month away from the ACT date in March. So let's get started, and going to dive into the slides. And as always, if you have questions, you can either put them in the chat, or if you want to just open your mic and ask the question, please don't hesitate to do that. Okay, so again, we're going to just take a quick review of the resources. We'll talk about alt access and get into the assessments that are on their way. So one of the things that we continue to work on, and I know that it is not always up to date, but if something is missing or you need a resource in it, or it's like there should be something like this if you've never been through it before, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. But the assessment website can be reached by mmsd.org/assessment. There is an updated forward page. There's an updated ACT page. We're working on the pre-ACT and dynamic learning maps. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I just want to make sure that you have the resources you need to do your job. Also, please keep in mind that I know Mondays are kind of crazy, but so is every day. We are available every Monday, 2 through 3 p.m. There's always someone from our department in our office hours, and the Zoom link is here. It's also in the agenda at the bottom of each month's and that running agenda. So you can reach out to us with questions. Likewise, you can email us or text or call me. Please don't go long without understanding some, and getting some answers to your questions. So we're going to dive into a couple things. We're going to talk about the forward exam briefly. Just keep in mind that this is for 10th grade students only. It is online. It is a state mandated test, and it only tests social studies for our 10th graders. Even if a student normally takes a test via IEP, they've got accommodations. This is the test they have to take unless they specifically have in their IEP that they take the dynamic learning maps. The window does start March 20th and goes through the end of April. Typically in the high schools, we've done this either on the afternoon of pre-ACT Secure, or you can do it in a specific class, social studies class, etc. Things you should know, again, this is an exam that must be given in person. The students will need tickets. ClassLink does not work with any of these exams. So they will need tickets for the forward exam. There is on their Chromebooks, when they sign out and on the initial screen when it turns on, in the bottom left is an app menu. And there will be the DRC Insight online assessments app that's listed there. That's how they open it up and log in using their tickets. Tickets will be sent to you in the second week of March, right prior to the window. Keep in mind that there are multiple tickets per page, and so that they will need to be separated and then sorted by however you're going to lay out the testing, as in which section, which classroom the students are. The tickets are considered secure material, so once you get them, please make sure that they are kept secure. If you've got someone helping you cut them out, please make sure it's not a student. They need to be secure at all times. When you're done with the tickets, those can be shredded. don't need to send them back to me, nor to the test vendor. Things that you should have in your possession, or if you don't have this, you should have the test administration manual. It looks like what's pictured here. There is a security training and confidentiality agreement. The security training is linked on the website. It takes 7 minutes to go through the security training. There are scripts that go with this, and there are scripts in both English and in Spanish. The English script is in the TAM, the Test Administration Manual. The Spanish script will be on the website. And then keep in mind, this is something that always happens, that there will be students who need accommodations, but we weren't aware of that. The accommodations need to be set behind the scenes. We have to go into the platform and set the accommodations for students. This is going to be the same thing that happens for pre-ACT. So if you're working on something, trying to pull together who has what accommodations, especially, for instance, for the Ford exam, there are what are called designated supports that students do not need to have an IEP in order to get these supports. So text to speech, for instance, or Spanish stacked translations, which means Spanish and then English, Spanish, then English. Those are not required. You don't need an IEP for that. And those are not considered to be accommodations, but they're designated supports. So you should have in your possession a document that will kind of just double check and make sure that we know that that is to be taken care of on the backside.
Tim, before you move on, can I
yes,
pipe in here?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
You had referred to manuals before. You will not have those in your possession yet. Those are in the process of being printed. So we initially are ordering, I think it was 5 copies for school, Tim,
yes,
and
yes.
you can print more as needed. And so those are in the process of being ordered and will be sent to your schools. A couple other quick things about this slide is that, well, first of all, I put the security training and the confidentiality agreement links directly into the agenda if you need a quick link to that. And then just to touch base back on what Tim said about accommodations, a reminder that all the designated support Google documents will close at midnight tonight. The editing permissions automatically expire at that time. So hopefully you've had a chance to review all of those things, but we're looking to load those as soon as possible next week. So I need to start organizing it. So if there's any issues with completing that document by today, please email me. We'll work it out. But I will need to start loading those next week before the system shuts down.
So the reason for that is we can mass upload all of these kinds of accommodations and supports. However, if you go beyond the time when we print tickets and then say, well, I'm sorry, I couldn't get to it, you're going to have to print all the tickets. So it's time saving. Not only would you have to do the work for putting in those accommodations and supports into the spreadsheet, but you'll also have to print the tickets. So if you would like us to take care of some of those, it does need to be to us ASAP. Thanks, Sarah. Keep in mind that we're only doing social studies. There are 2 sessions. You can see on the bottom of this slide, 35 minutes is the approximated time it takes for students to test. We know that it's anywhere from 20 to 30, maybe 35. So students are expected to take both sessions, session 1 and session 2. Okay, so if you have questions about Forward, I spent about 40 minutes on this Forward with the elementary and the middle school teams. There's a lot there, but keep in mind, we're only talking about the social studies piece. So there's less that has to be done by high schoolers. However, it still has to be done. So let's move on briefly. I'm going to kind of take this in reverse order, but dynamic learning maps. All the fundamental belief or the fundamental rule that DPI says is all students need to be assessed. There are no exemptions. There are some cases where, yes, you would be looking at, a newly arrived student, but they are only exempt from taking a portion of the test. So, and that's a one-time exemption. If a student has an IEP, that does not mean they don't take a test. Even those students who are severely impaired, the dynamic learning map is designed for that. It is to test their progress on the essential elements standards in the state. So keep in mind that just because a student has an IEP or that does not mean they don't test. So all students who are designated to take the dynamic learning maps have been identified. Case managers have been identified and have been notified about the students on their caseload that are going to be taking the DLM. Professional development is going on. And what that entails is if they've never taken this before, it's a little bit longer professional development, but they will need to learn how to give the dynamic learning maps, which is not a sit down in one day and take a test. It's a series of questions over a series of days. They have to conduct something called the first contact, which is what is the best method for collecting, allowing the student to share what they know. And then the personal needs profile will be taking place. The window for the dynamic learning maps is the same as the forward. So it's March 20th through the 28th of April. This does take the place for an 11th grader of the ACT. And keep in mind that it does count. State and the federal roll the dynamic learning maps scores into your ACT and pre-ACT and forward scores. So when it comes time to calculating the school report card and federal designations for ESSA, they're looking at how many students completed all the assessments. So ACT, pre-ACT, and the dynamic learning maps. So just keep that in mind. The pre-ACT, we're going to be spending, just so you know, we have a meeting set up for next month. It will be, I believe, the 15th of March. So right before forward, so those people who are doing forward, if you have questions at the last moment, we got you covered. But we're also going to be pushing on the pre-ACT big time at that point. There will be things that we get to you prior to that, again, dealing with accommodations and supports. And so it's the overlap between these tests is pretty large. So we'll be getting that to you probably before ACT, keeping in mind that we know that you have the ACT going on. And so we're trying to look at things from when are you the busiest and when do we need to get this information, and trying to find a fine balance. So if it comes from us and you're going, how can we possibly do this? Please talk to us and we'll make sure that we work something out. We have some deadlines. I know that you have all kinds of things going on. So keeping in mind, April 5th, which is a Wednesday, is going to be our 9th and 10th grade day for testing the pre-ACT secure only. It should be done in one setting on that day, unless a student has an IEP that says extended time over multiple days. There is a window. That window to actually do the pre-ACT secure is the same as the forward. So March 20th through the 28th of April. My guess is you don't want to do any students prior to spring break. So we have the entire month of April to do the pre-ACT secure. We want everyone to do the test as much as possible on the 5th. So again, just a reminder that students with disabilities must take either the pre-ACT secure or the dynamic learning maps. Based on what's in OASIS, that's what we're going to be pulling for accommodations. So if students have open IEPs or need changes, you need to be in contact with us, your team does. So we'll continue to get more information out to you. Again, I'm trying to find this balance between how much is enough to keep this moving forward and how much is too much. So questions about forward pre-ACT dynamic learning maps before we move on to, One more. The alternate access field test.
So I have a quick question. With
Yes.
the pre-ACT, just like the ACT, you have it in the notes there, it's required to be done in one sitting. ACT, we know what our makeup date is. How many cracks at getting kids in to do the pre-ACT do you want us to do in order to try to, I mean, this is still our state testing system. This is still what we're graded by on report card, correct?
That is correct. So I would take a look at the student themselves, and I mean, if they have a history of being absent, 3 weeks out of 4, if you can try once more, I mean, the balance between being in class and taking this test, that would be great. If a student is not absent often, just happens to be absent on the 5th, work with them to see when they can get that in, but you have until the 28th of April, and you can do that on any day. It is not like the ACT where you have specific dates. The ACT, we have the 7th of March and the 11th of April, and then the accommodation windows, but those are really the only 2 days that we have for ACT. Pre-ACT Secure is anytime 20th of March through the 28th of April. Does that help?
Yeah, well, no, it just not really, because we're going to have 100 kids, that we're going to have to try to get makeups for, and you're not working with one individual student that might or may not be absent a fair amount. So, but also it doesn't have the requirement of it starting at a specific time either, I don't think.
That is correct. So if you've got a student there in the afternoon because they never come in the morning, you got that possibility. I would say if you give it a second opportunity, and at least 2 opportunities to take it.
All right.
That seems fair on both on you, for me, expectations of you, and I'm not making you chase after 100 students for 14 days in a row.
Right. That's what we used to do. We just kept their tickets and we brought them in, and we continued to try. So,
and it's diminishing returns. I know that as you get, the students who hardly ever come, yeah, I get it. So hopefully that'll help. And if I get any pushback from down here or DPI, I will let you know.
Thank you.
Tim,
Okay.
before we move on to this, I looked ahead in the slides and I don't know that we have one, but we're still going to be talking about ACT, but forward and pre-ACT, do you want to just kind of quickly talk about what the communication plan is for all of our spring assessments?
Sure. So right now, we've been working this year, we've been working with the communications department to build out better communications to try and get families and students to understand the importance of these tests. So there is an Instagram social media campaign going on right now, getting students ready for the ACT, culminating on, of course, ACT Day on the 7th. So there's a lot of information that's going out. It's been scheduled, and we're doing the same thing for the pre-ACT and forward exams. So there will be maybe not as much information, because I think the ACT campaign has like 6 weeks or 7 weeks worth of information. So this has been going on for a while. The forward and the pre-ACT have less information that we're sharing, but we're still going at it from multiple days. On the 23rd of February, there will be a letter that is ready for the forward exam. We'll also make sure that we have a pre-ACT letter for families translated into Spanish and Hmong, both of these letters, and that they will be, the expectation is that schools will share those with families at least a week before the actual test. So if you're deciding that you're going to do the 10th grade forward on Wednesday, the April 5th, so prior to spring break, that's something that you should send home the letter saying, here's the test, here's why it's important, etc. The letters will be in Word format so that you can put in your school specific testing information. If you are doing the 5th of April, it probably wouldn't hurt to send out something school messenger wise on Monday, the 3rd, just reminding that not only is it a pre-ACT, but for sophomores, it's the forward exam as well. So there is a communication plan. We're trying to get more people understanding the importance of this, so that there's less on you and more on us as the district. We'll see how it goes. If you've got questions or concerns, I know that there was an issue the other day with some language that they sent out regarding ACT, and it's been corrected. So please let us know if something comes up. Did that help?
Thanks, Tim.
All right. I know I've been just anxious to get to this, so let's go. The alternate access field test. First of all, a big shout out to everyone in your buildings who was involved in the access testing for English language learners. We saw a really great turnout, probably had one of the highest percentages, if not the highest percentages of participation across the district that we've had since I've been working here. So much appreciated. I know that a lot goes into it. I know that every school had people involved and working hard to get all of the students assessed. I appreciate that. And I just want to let you know that did not go unnoticed. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And then he turns and says, but it's not over yet. As I've been telling you for a while, we have the alternate access for ELL's field test, and that is out. Everyone except for West has their materials right now. West, yours is arriving today, and we'll get it out to you as soon as possible. The window is February 14th, so it opened yesterday and goes to March 17th. This is a pencil paper test, and only those students who took the alternate access will be expected to take this alternate access field test. Once again, why? That's the big question. One of the key components about assessments are that they need to be valid and reliable. Otherwise, it's worthless doing that. That validity and reliability is tested every year by field test questions built into a regular exam. So the ACT, there will be a question or two that is actually not scored. You and I will never know about it, but they're testing out questions. The alternate access has so few students taking this statewide that they need to actually run a field test in order to change and improve the way the test works for all our students starting next year, starting next December of 2023. So it's a one-time field test that we're requiring, the state is requiring us to give. Staff members who have been giving the alternate access only need 15 more additional minutes of professional development to administer this particular assessment. If you're instead saying, no, we're going to give those folks a break, we're going to bring on somebody new to do this, there's an additional hour worth of professional development on the wida.wiscs.edu website that staff will have to take. So I think everybody has been notified about this. Materials are in hand except for those at West. And those will be on the way as soon as they show up at our doorstep, which UPS says is today. Okay. What you've all been waiting for. So there is a communication plan. It is in action. There are things like, why should I be taking this test? There are resources for families, and there are how to prepare some guidelines, not only for schools, but also for families. So things like making sure that they fill out all the answers, even if it's a guess, don't leave answers blank. Making sure that you have, plenty of rest the night before, or, and a breakfast in the morning. Those kinds of things are some of the resources that are being shared. This has been information that has been pulled from across the country. And that's why there was an error the other day in one of the statements. And so we corrected that. So just so you know that there is this communication in play right now. So, non-test activities. We know that February 6th was the start of this, and students needed to put My ACT student information. They need to put the pre-test information into My ACT. They need to have an account. So student data was uploaded, new students to the grade, and I know we've had information going back and forth between schools regarding transfers. And so please know that I'm working on that, but we'll work to make sure that that happens so that you can do that at the school level rather than have it slow down coming to me. If you need additional material, when the material arrives, please make sure that you inventory it, know your numbers, and look at what they've sent you. They usually send an overage. That overage has been getting smaller every year, so it's more targeted to exactly the number of students that were pulled on January 17th. Please, please, please order additional material right away. And if you want to order a couple extras, that's fine. You can send those back unused. It's a whole lot easier and less stressful if you get a couple extras anyways. So remember that when you order things, we are not using the online version of the resources. Just wanted to share with you, I know that this has changed from in the past, or at least my recollection of it. This year, they're saying that foreign exchange students should be included in the testing. So we should offer the ACT to any of our foreign exchange students who are in grade 11. Now, this is only something that that will affect their scores. It's giving them an opportunity. Since these students are not full academic year students, their scores, their testing, their lack of testing will not change anything with your school's state or federal reporting. So they don't count against you or for you in participation or in the scores themselves, whether they're proficient or not. But DPI called specifically on this, and they said, yes, we should be assessing foreign exchange students who are in grade 11. Again, those students who are in grade 12 but want to take the ACT, that is not possible on this particular test administration. It's only grade 11 students who are currently listed in grade 11, or at least grade 11 as of January 17th. Okay, remember, we had this is the letter that goes to students that explains how to do their non-test information, how to get a My ACT account. And at the top of the page is their name, date of birth, student code, high school ACT code. And here are the ACT codes for our high schools, for our schools. And the question is, where are the student numbers? Some of you may recall this, but they are available to you right now. And here's where they are. You have to log into Pearson Access next. Make sure that in the upper right-hand corner, you are on the spring 2023 ACT assessment. By the way, this is also the same login, the same place that you'll be going for the pre-ACT secure. So you'll just simply have to change which assessment you're looking at, which doesn't make it any easier, especially when you get in a hurry, making sure that you know what assessment you're working on. So once that's set, you go to the reports menu. Clicking on that, you'll get a choice between there are two reports, but you want the operational reports. That will give you the following. Over on the left-hand side, you'll click Students and Registrations is the report category. That brings up all the different reports that are available for students and registrations. The report you want is called Student Registrations Report. By clicking on that, it will take you to a page that says there's no report available. Click on the Refresh the Report button, and then you'll need to wait as it rebuilds or builds for the first time that particular report. What you will get is a spreadsheet that will have, for instance, the name of the organization, the test administration, and it will have student codes. These are the codes that need to be given to the students. So when they log in to my ACT and set that up, this is their student code. It will have student last name, student first name, it will have date of birth, and it will also have the local student code. Now, that unfortunately is not the MMSD ID number. So if you've got two students with the same name or something similar, and you want to make sure you know which student it is, look in IC at the state ID number. Tim says that knowing that there are many people who don't have access to the state ID number in IC. If you have a question and you need an answer, and you don't have access to that, please connect with either Sarah or myself. And given the day, we may or may not have access. It's ourselves. So that is the document that you can pull. And then from there, using the template of that letter, you can run a mail merge so that all the information goes into that letter, including your high school code, and you can have that all set up and run copies. You need to then get that to students so that they can complete this information. This is the way they're going to be able to get their scores. So going into my ACT, we will see how things play out as far as getting hard copies. I don't believe that we get copies to mail home, but we'll take a look at that. I believe it is only available through my ACT.
Tim, we got papers in our materials, one 8.5 by 11 sheet for every single student with their code on it.
Oh,
We don't-
wonderful.
We don't use it because we just email it to them to make their online account, but we did get them.
Okay, awesome. Because I didn't see anything come through. Thank you.
Tim, can I ask a quick question as well?
Sure.
So for this pre-registration piece that all students need to do, I'm wondering what other high schools are doing, because our approach at Memorial is we plan to go into all junior English classes and walk through this step by step with students to do it. And I'm wondering if there's slides available with these steps that we can use to guide students without having to create them.
I have some from last year that I can share with the group, that we go into English classes as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and my question with that too, thank you so much, Darcy. I'm wondering if any of those steps have changed from last year to this year, or if we can just use what you created last year.
My guess is, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I haven't dug into it too much yet this year, so I'm not totally positive, but I'm sure we can probably just make some minor tweaks. I can share again with you after I update them for this year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darcy. Thanks, Janelle. Janelle put also East's version of that in the chat. So thank you. So Janelle, back to your question. Can you email those out? Yes, you can. If that's your best way of
Sorry,
getting.
I didn't mean to ask the question. We already emailed them out on Friday and we're doing
Okay.
our online ACT creation right now. So
Okay.
sorry. So if I wasn't supposed to do that, whoopsie.
No, you're okay. You're okay. So, all right. What other questions do you have about getting them started and getting all this number? So I apologize if this is like, why is he telling us this? I didn't see any of this information come through. Normally I get metros, but I didn't this year. So I think Allison did. So that's why I went through this, but knowing where this is really helpful. There are reports that you can run. Okay, mail merge, share with the students, or you've got the copies already. Now, one of the things that I did in creating the slide deck was I said, I know that some of you have been through this many times. There are others who have never been through it. So please take this with a grain of salt. And if you have things that you want to add, but next steps, things that you need to be thinking about doing, creating rooms and assigning proctors to those rooms and who's going to be in those rooms, which students are going to be there. I'm going to say this several times. Please double check timing codes, keeping in mind that even though, for instance, a timing code 6 may look like this and timing code 8 has the same things except extended breaks or breaks as needed, do not put them in the same room. ACT looks at that as an irregularity and will probably negate all the assessments that are everybody in that room. So please be very careful about where you put students who have timing codes, who have accommodations. Make sure that students know where they're going ahead of time, as well as have that available for the morning of the test. You do need to go through proctor training. The test administrators are, there is a video available for that. I will post that on the website. And you can see that as well in the either Success or the state ACT website. So make sure you build that in, as well as the morning of the test. It's always good to pull together people prior to going out to the rooms, just to make sure that A, you have everyone, and B, you've got people with last second questions that you need to respond to. So thanks, Darcy. Hopefully we'll catch up if you have any questions. Simple things like extra pencils, scratch paper, permissible calculators. There's a list that's available that comes with all the materials. However, you only need a 4-function calculator. So if a student doesn't have one, you can offer a 4-function calculator to them. Keep in mind that scratch paper is a secure material. Once it's been used, you can't just let them walk out the door with that. When the manuals come, which should be pretty soon. I don't know, again, because I didn't get any shipments this year. I've been looking for things. Not sure if you've already gotten this, but you should get manuals for standard testing time, as well as one for accommodations and English learner supports. So please keep in mind that those are coming. Those, all right, great. I'm glad you got your stuff. Maybe it's just me that hasn't gotten it. So please become familiar with these things, as there are several pieces of it that are really important. Again, transportation on ACT day, it's going to be the same as it is on a regular school day. There is no early bus, even though students will be done prior to the normal typical bus time. There will be a break for snacks. So if you have granola bars and water available, we've found that places like Sam's Club or Costco are the best buys. Again, calculators, cell phones, huge issue. Student is done with testing and pulls out their cell phone. It just simply is basically they've potentially ruined it for everyone in that room. So what we've done in the past for advanced placement testing is provide a plastic bag with a label on it. Students write their name on the label, put their phone in the bag, make sure it's turned off so you don't have a bunch of vibrating cell phones or ringing cell phones during the test, and putting it on the proctor's desk in front or back of the room. Students get really paranoid when their phones are gone. So make sure that you have a place to put those and then hand them out to students when they're done. Sometimes students carry multiple cell phones, so please make sure you got all of them. Accommodations, reconsideration is still open. Again, reminder, example testing, timing code 6, all the same. You can have them in multiple rooms, but they need to be together. You cannot mix any kind of administration or timing code with another. Now, the manuals will look something like this, as you've already seen. So the one on the left is the standard testing time. This is from last year. The right is the accommodations. They are different colors, so they should be, start recognizing those maybe in your sleep. Question about some of the forms that you will need. You do need to have a seating chart. And on this chart, this is one for every room. You will need to have the staff member during the test will put in the multiple choice test booklet number, as well as the writing booklet number that each student has. So they will need to circulate through the room and write this down as far as who is sitting where and what test booklet they have. There's also a kind of a receipt or a control of who has access to what booklets. So when you hand out a stack of 17 test exams to a staff member, they sign off on which test booklets they receive. You can see kind of in the upper third of this, it's a place where they have this, you put in the serial number from start to finish, how many books there are. The same with the writing test booklet goes in there. And then you sign off as saying that is, you're moving that to the room supervisor. They then say, here's how many I have used and unused. And the total number should be the same. They sign off on this with all the forms, everything checked that they've actually done this. And you need to keep this because it's kind of a trail to make sure that everything is covered. And finally, hopefully we'll never know how to use this, but this is an irregularity report, a sample for individuals at the top and a group irregularity. For instance, this one says a tornado drill. They were given 2 extra minutes when testing resumed. So those kinds of things. If things happen, when materials arrive, let's hopefully you won't need a forklift. Make sure that you put them in a secure location. Sort that material by how you have it set up in rooms, double check the timing codes, order more material if you need any, but please save those boxes as you will need them to return materials. When you complete everything, make sure that you collect all the materials, sort the scratch paper, etc., remove that from the materials. There is, in the test administration manual, there's a very clear section on what to pack in what order in what boxes. So there are poly mailers and there are boxes. So please make sure that you actually go through and read that with the material in front of you so you can say, oh, this is a poly mailer. Those will be color coded. This is, another material. This goes inside of this. Walk yourself through that. Also, in case of emergencies, like if we were to have a snow day on that day, all that material will hang on to it at least till we know what's up with it from ACT. We will call ACT on that day. They will let us know what to do if there is some kind of disruption, snow day, etc. The phone number for standard time questions is the following. You've got that. If there are accommodations questions, there is another phone number, same phone number, different extension. And on that day, please don't hesitate to email or call either Sarah or myself. I'm going to be moving around between buildings, so calling me would be better, or texting. I will get, if I'm in a room that is testing at that very moment, I will not be able to answer the phone until I get out of the room. So please be patient. I will call you right back. So we're getting close to the end of this. All students are required to test. If you've got a student, and these are typically 9th graders or 10th graders, and there are not very many of them, so they probably will not be taking the ACT, but just in case, we need to connect with those families to get them to come in. If you have difficult time getting in touch with the family and you need some support from Madison Promise, TJ McCrae and Andrew Stendall are the people that you should be emailing. Email them both, as Andrew is out with paternity leave right now. And so TJ and Andrew need to be aware of what's going on so that they can help you. Otherwise, for different programs, I know we've been talking, I know Katie, you had a question about a Blue Lion. We will work through and make sure that all those questions are answered. But if you have other questions, please let me know. Finally, opt-outs. The letters that we are sharing with you to send to families do not include information about opt-outs. We're not encouraging it. In fact, we're encouraging just the opposite, that everyone actually do the tests. I know that we always have concerns. We have students who have already taken the ACT, who have scored 35 or 36 and do not want to take that again. That hurts as far as our participation is concerned. I've raised that concern with DPI several times, and they're working through that and having some conversations about that. But if you get an opt-out, it must be in writing. It can be either an email or a written note. Please share that electronically with myself or with Sarah, and we'll keep track of that because I need to report to the Board of Education once testing is completed. And yes, opt-outs do affect your school. Janelle's question, do you want us to hold all the opt-out notes until we have them all? You can do whatever works best for you. I don't need to put that in as far as into the system as far as opt-outs or not tested reasons until the right after the test date, but we need to get going on that. If you have some, I'd appreciate it early, but you don't have to. It's easiest for you to copy, and scan them and then send them all at once. That's fine as well. But please, my big ask is that this happened, because there's nothing worse than reporting out that 3 high schools, this is in June or July, 3 high schools shared their opt-outs with me and a 4th did not. So please make sure, and I will be requesting this, and I know that request is a difficult one at this really busy time of year, but I do need this information. Does email count? Yes, it does. So forward us the email, and we'll count that as being an opt-out. If I get an opt-out, for instance, a parent directly emails me or the general assessment email address, I will then share that back with you so that you know that this person is not doing the yes. Thank you, Janelle. No, we're not doing Google Forms. Please do not create a Google form for families to opt out. This is in everyone's best interest, as it is. This is a required state test. So, okay. Now, let's just finish up here. We've got how you can contact us if you don't already know. Caroline Racine-Gillis is also someone you can connect with as far as helping with data and communications. She's been involved deeply with the communication planning for high schools. All right. Lots of stuff. And I'm sure there are lots of questions. So I am going to stop recording this so that you're free to ask questions, and hopefully if there are some, we'll post the answers. So, all right.